Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another recording of MTG Arena. Today is Monday, June 22nd. So my power went out on Friday, and the battery backup allowed it to shut down, but it didn't still give me even like 3 minutes to wrap up. So I will have to remind myself that if power goes out, I need to wrap up the videos instantaneously. Just stop it at that point. Even the wrap-up dialogue that I usually do is probably too long. So, because the power went out, and was out for at least a couple hours, I would say, I didn't really do anything more as far as the news or look at anything. I believe the Saturday I did play 15 victories and try and just work my way up to a few more levels, a few more uncommon cards, but that's kind of it. And we're just kind of waiting now, 8 days until the season ends, and let's see, I believe 2 days until the mastery ends. And yeah, we didn't really make a lot of progress here. Unless we are going to manage to get 15 wins today, which we probably could do either today or tomorrow, to get a bunch of XP, to get a bunch of extra uncommon cards, which you might as well get, I suppose, because there's really no reason not to get it. I will say that the core 2021 cards seem to be much more focused on reprints, and that seems weird because that's not what core 2020 has been, and I don't think that's what it's been for a while. So they're getting back to their roots and doing the right thing, reprinting some very expensive cards that actually should see some play in their new Pioneer play. They're also releasing a I guess we need to play a blue deck here. We really don't have anything else to do. Today's just play, get victories, and get through the news. I am streaming early, which is to say I've been awake for a while. I also ran into a issue where I was trying to wrap up recording It'll Do 2 Plus. It'll Do 2 Plus is the name of the game. And man, there's just hours upon hours of me just not saying anything. There's just nothing in the game, so very little to criticize. A lot of obsessive gameplay mechanics that I'm trying to play the game and get all the collectibles, but then there's a lot of really difficult like puzzles and things that pretty much show you would never be able to actually figure out all the solutions. So I'm having to go back and look up solutions quite a bit also. I will say It'll Do 2 is better than It'll Do 1, but that's not much to say, really. Let's see. Neither one of these cards seem to synergize in any way. Interesting. So yeah, I've got top of the library to the graveyard. I think we are gonna just mill this guy, although I don't think that's really what this deck is built around. I think it's more about milling yourself, but whatever. We'll see how this plays. This requires 3 to synergize. Whenever you draw a second card, attach it to a creature you control. Okay. It's a cycle, which then lets me attach that to that, making that a 3/3. Nice. So yeah, I'm playing It'll Do 2. I need to do scheduling after playing It'll Do 2. I need to just catch up on all my scheduling and then see if my automation software, which I think would works. At least it will do the part except for the end screens, and I may have to just I was going to have to make a automation that would just try and do all the end screens on all my old videos anyways. Let's see. Well, let's go and frogify this guy. Go ahead and play that. And then go ahead and attack. Oh, wait. Might as well just wait, I think. So, yeah. The Steam Summer Sale doesn't seem like it's happening, which may be for the better for everybody. And since this is Monday, it's not like there was any major announcements that happened over the weekend, so we will just be kind of catching up with a few things that have happened. Few new games. And then on Wednesday, at that point, there is this very high potential that we will be done with, we'll be into the next expansion. So Wednesday could be a special stream day, or a day where we at least focus on the core sets. I don't know. I'm not promising anything. My insomnia is still crazy. And I'm lucky to even be able to start streaming now, and I'll be incredibly sleepy almost certainly by the time we're at the end of this stream. Plus, these new expansions on Magic don't really seem to play out to me much. Gain 3 life and draw a card. Let's see. Do I want to attach to a different person? Nope. Think we're happy where we are. So we have a game on Steam called Maze Sinister Play Collector's Edition from Big Fish Game. It's a hidden object game for the standard $12.59. So they are continuing their monthly releases, but in all fairness, Big Fish Games seems to have their own website, so it is understandable and believable as to why they have such a large release amount compared to pretty much any other publisher. I imagine if I really looked at the number of games Big Fish Games has, that number is probably significantly higher than most other publishers, even when you're thinking like EA or a big player in that field. Let's see. Four more cards in the graveyard. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Aeoth RPG. I guess that's how you'd pronounce that. Aeioth. It's mostly negative. It looks like it is a rather blurry RPG clone, MMO clone. It's $11.99. It's got a bunch of languages. It's a little surprising it's not blatantly obvious that it's like a Chinese game, because typically the RPG games are the Chinese, the MMO style games that are terrible tend to be these Chinese properties. What did he just do? So there goes my abilities. Okay. -2, and loses all abilities. Mutating onto this creature won't give it new abilities. It can gain abilities in other ways. Interesting. So do we have something you'd like to remove? Or would we prefer to play this? Discard a card, hexproof until next turn, and tap it. I don't think I need to do that. If I can get this on the field, I believe this removes any number of cards, so I could remove this if I wanted to. Next we have a game on Steam, Phantom Batulia, which looks like a Windows 95 game. Looks really ugly, if any of the screenshots would load. Yeah, I don't think there's anything here. $7.99 English full audio. Oddly Asian inspired for a game that only has English. See, this 5.5, we probably need to do something with it. Let's see. Is that the right move? I think it probably is. Exile any cards we want to, so I'll exile that one. And play this. This is a cycling card, so I'll keep it. And yeah, still think we're kind of fine. Now that guy's back. We need to attach this to this, I think. And he's moving counters around is what he's doing. And then he's proliferating. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Mahasona, which looks like it's some kind of awkwardly articulated, I guess would be the right word, CGI kids playing some kind of like hide and go seek type game in the dark with torches against monsters. I don't know if there's really a game here or if this is just a bunch of asset flips, but I do think I'm intrigued enough to put it on the follow list because it is some idea, at least. We have seen in a few Minecraft clone games, the hide and seek style of gameplay kind of works. Although this is also an online PvP only game, so I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't anything, anybody ever playing it. Tap up to 2 targets, creatures don't untap. Yeah, we know that, we just saw that. This would be mutate. Let's see. Let's go and cycle this. And go ahead and attach this. And go ahead and play this. This would be lifelink and this would be a 7/7. So we are getting there. This would deal damage. Cause them to kill some cards. Not sure if that's necessary though. Just keep going through all the news. Try to burn through this. Ideally this would be a shorter stream. We'll see if that really happens. Yeah, this guy's just gonna get stronger and stronger. But meanwhile, if I let him attack, he loses. And I guess he determined that he was just out of luck because, in part because of my hand destruction, and in part just because the cards I played were lucky. Play again. Next we have a game on Steam called Chess Knights Viking Lands, which to me does not make a lot of sense. It seems like you've got a lot of animation here to make chessboards, more than's really necessary to make kind of chess puzzles. That is oddly too visually polished for the type of game that it seems like it is. This is English only. It's from the developer apparently of Zen Chess and its mini spin-offs. Look at this, you can see 6 different Zen Chess games available. And I don't think I need anywhere as many of those. Or to play any of those chess puzzles. Let's see. So YouTube creators tweeted out, which is a subgroup. This week we say goodbye to our favorite insider Tom. We can't find words to thank him, so we're sharing it some below. Tom has been the face. I don't know what he's really done in the background, but he has been the face of the YouTube Studio Beta, now just called the YouTube Studio, the thing that was completely shoved down the throats of all YouTube content creators as they shut down the old YouTube Video Manager and YouTube's software website as far as just uploading videos and scheduling videos and that. And YouTube Studio, out of beta, in a beta, either, is not better. It is in no way better. It might be better for them, as in YouTube themselves, so that they can deprecate more functions and focus on the things that they can make the most money on, or it's probably just so they can remove features and try and remove people from being on YouTube. in a weird way, YouTube probably wants a lot of people just to quit using their service, and I wouldn't be surprised at some point if they did just say, no more, we're not gonna do business with you. We're gonna only focus on the top 100 streamers and all the famous people that we've paid and given extra access to stream. I think I should probably just attack here, because I'm gonna win fairly quickly at this rate. Let's see. Play that. Play that. Hmm. 230 by default. Okay. I wish I was playing ranked since I'm getting these win streaks, but whatever. He did the creator inside of videos, so I don't know if maybe we'll get a different style of creator inside of videos less often. But he also put like movie trivia at the end of the creator inside of videos for kind of no reason, and then he felt like he was trying to make himself be a YouTube content creator or content creator in general, when I mean he just wasn't going to be able to do that. And he does feel kind of like he was just a middle manager. I saw him like maybe in the room once with Susan Wojcicki, so he's not super high in that level. And apparently he's going somewhere else to work somewhere else, or maybe he's just going to work for a different division. There is weirdness certainly working at Google, because there's not a lot of opportunity for promotion per se, and you do get shifted around. There's oddly not anything that this probably will affect. It probably won't change the way YouTube Studio runs or works. That would be ideal if it did. If somebody new came in and they put some fresh eyes on it, they really improved that service, streamlined the workflow for all the people trying to upload videos, made it easier, made it more logical, because it definitely is not logical or easy. It is a mess, and I'm not sure that they want to make it even easy, but new blood might be a great idea, or it might just be a whole new team that shoves some new content down our throat, and we end up with a YouTube Studio version 2.0. It is not unheard of for someone to finish a project and then leave. That typically is the way you want to go, is to feel like you've finished the things you set out to do, and now you're moving on to another position or another job. Next, we have a game on Steam called Furs of Fury, which seems like it half the time is a zoomed out 8-bit top-down hack and slash game, but at other times it seems like you zoom in at the mouse wheel and you can see them a lot better animated, although you really couldn't play the game at that rate. And it does feel pretty ugly and a little asset flippy. This is $9.99, English only. I don't think that's a game that will make it to the fall list. Next game we have is Tag Sexual Content, and I don't believe there's even a screenshot here I can show other than the actual, what it looks like is the actual gameplay. So we have a game here called Love Wish, which seems to be kind of a puzzle game where you have different shapes and you have to fit it in a space. And then there's just a ton of anime girls and sexual content and nudity in it for no reason. It's $2.09, a bunch of languages. Yeah. A low effort game by most meters and by my opinion. We haven't seen anything that was straight up a low effort game in a while. Usually they try to at least have a couple of things that might make it feel like it's worth selling. I'm gonna go ahead and cycle because I don't think there's a smart move otherwise. See, next we have a game on Steam called Samurai Cooking, which is tagged as a free-to-play game. It looks like it's a cooking game, although from a weird angle and perspective compared to the way they really usually look, and seems like you're basically just running a McDonald's or a burger joint of some sort and only serving burgers. Free to play, English and Japanese. Yeah, I don't see anything there of interest. Let's do that. Equal to your devotion to blue, which would be a 2-3 at the moment. Or we could play this, put that out, and risk it. It's probably not going to save the day, though. I would have needed to have been able to play a lot more creatures on the field before this point. Gearbox is probably trying to avoid people remembering that they're once and again in a lawsuit, and so now they've decided to sell some Gearbox loot for an in-game cosmetic mask, while also mentioning that they're working with Direct Relief to provide protective health care equipment. That's nice, but they're not really even saying how much they're donating. They're still very much just trying to promote Borderlands 3, which, if a video game blacklist ever works, I would say that the Borderlands 3 video game blacklist that wasn't really being run by anybody, but it just felt like the right thing to do, in my opinion, and I feel like a lot of people's opinion because it was on the Epic Store for exclusivity. I bet their sales are considerably lower than what they wanted. Does that mean that 2K will take away Gearbox's involvement from the next Borderlands series? Maybe. And it might be very interesting to see a different company work with the publisher 2K to make a Borderlands series. But I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't do anything and 2K just maybe decides eventually not to make a 5th Borderlands and instead just publishes something new. Gearbox definitely should have had something new that they had in the works and had developed, and they really don't have anything that has succeeded. Battleborn failed miserably, and their self-publishing division hasn't really published anything amazing or done a good job as a publisher, in my opinion. Choose a non-creature card you own from outside the game and reveal it. Do I have a side deck in this deck? I don't even think I do. Magic the Gathering Arena has this announcement. Get ready, macOS players. MTG Arena arrives on 6/25. Okay. For the people that are playing on macOS, that seems interesting because, in particular, it shows that they were more interested in having a macOS version of MTG Arena than a mobile version, and they were more interested in programming on the macOS programming language, which I don't think is probably the iOS programming language. Maybe it is now. So maybe the macOS version will run on iPhone fairly easily and can be easily just ported. That was where Apple was going with their systems, abandoning basically the Intel chipset completely. But it is odd timing and odd priorities, certainly. As a side note, though, I did just have to reinstall Magic Arena because it is just like constantly running into troubles, and I don't know if that's because of my overlay software or what, and we're just constantly getting these black screens when it should be showing something, in my opinion, just so you don't think the game has crashed, because half the time it has crashed. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Relic Guardians Complete Edition, which looks to me like it's some attempt at an RPG or a port of a RPG. They're saying it's a rock, paper, scissors meets anime turnstile fights and time travel. That seems like a lot. For $1.94 English and Portuguese Brazil. I'm gonna put this on the fall list, but I don't know. I don't know if it really would make it. And then they've set themselves up for danger here because you have like a caveman, and so somebody might take offense of what looks like actual caveman characters, depending on what those actually do represent. Oddly, I am surprised we still get news about Avatar: The Last Airbender, but apparently their characters are going to join Smite. Okay. A lot of people certainly were heavily influenced by Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it is starting to get to the level of people that were obsessed with like Neon Genesis Evangelion when that came out, where that got talked about for a good decade and a half straight by many people, and it's still probably a show worth talking about, but we finally have hit a generation gap where people didn't see it directly on its air date or when it was airing and when they were going through their formative years, as it typically was the case. I don't think there's really anything wrong with Avatar: The Last Airbender. If anything, it's probably a great story. It's just, I kind of wish there was newer, better things coming out a lot faster. It feels like a lot of TV and movies are just wallowing in nostalgia and kind of admitting to themselves that they really can't do anything better, which is probably, sadly, probably the truth. OpenCritic has this article. There's a report that Rocksteady's next game will be a Suicide Squad game, and that it will be revealed in August. This is coming from Eurogamer directly, which, okay. So, a Suicide Squad game in the middle of WB potentially thinking about selling all of its rights, and I assume WB would be the one that had licensed the Suicide Squad game, since WB owns Marvel, I think. it is definitely late to the party, considering how the Suicide Squad movie has already come out and had a spin-off that flopped, and even the first movie didn't amazingly sell. It sold alright, but not enough to justify a video game. And I'm not sure playing a bunch of bad guys with the bombs in their heads, being forced to work for the government, inherently tells a particularly good story as far as a video game is concerned. But I don't know what Marvel characters would tell a particularly good video game story. They're all typically overpowered. Suicide Squad at least has the ability to not have the characters overpowered. Moving on, we have for the PS4 and Xbox One, Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, has been announced, due out October 2nd. Crash Bandicoot looking a little bit shorter and still very triangular, but more cartoony and less awkward low polygon in this cutscene, in this trailer, which is not a bad idea. A little bit of a refresh. I'm still not sure that the Crash Bandicoot series ever is really great, but I don't know if you could really change much of what the series is without irritating a significant number of the fans of that series. It does certainly go to say something's crazy that it's coming out for the Xbox One and the PS4 instead of coming out as a launch title for the PlayStation 5, which historically that was what Crash Bandicoot was. It was Sony's attempt at having a mascot character that they quickly abandoned, and it does kind of feel, because they never really did have a mascot character or attempted anything like that, it makes the brand of PlayStation feel a little bit soulless. If anything, you best describe the PlayStation brand throughout the years as the platform that Japanese people play Japanese games on, and that's about all you can really say. For a long time, the PlayStations were the place to get more sexual content games, but now they're pro-censorship, heavy pro-censorship now. There was yet another visual novel that said we've had to censor out several pieces of content for the PlayStation 4 version, and yet the Switch version is going to come out completely uncensored. And one of the publishers, P Cubed, has even put out a survey directly asking the customers what they will do if they hear a game is censored, whether they're buy it anyways, buy it digitally instead, buy it physically still. They definitely phrased it like by default people are going to buy things physically, and they are planning to buy things physically, which I think is probably not an accurate assumption that you can make. But then there was other options of not buying it anyway at all, or buying it on a different console. So there is clearly an internal conversation happening in P Cubed about where they should publish their games if they're going to have to censor it, or perhaps they're trying to put pressure on Sony to tell them to stop making us censor the games, because the game developers definitely don't want to have to censor their games. That's just more work that they don't want to have to do. Well, we had a couple of victories, and then we blew it. Techruptor has a review for SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. This is yet again another nostalgia game. Feels like a whole new generation has just grown up and started being able to afford consoles. Unfortunately, they may not be able to afford very many games these days. Let's see. Techruptor gave it a 5.0, and I imagine that's probably close to what the review would have been when it originally came out for also. They say it's a clunky adventure that only appeals to hardcore fans thanks to its antiquated gameplay and ho-hum additions. The pros, it looks and sounds like a SpongeBob episode, and it has functional platforming. The cons are clunky animation presentations, glitches are everywhere. It's heavily padded in some insanely frustrating segments. Okay, yeah, I don't think I was going to play a SpongeBob game anyways. This does look fine as a remaster, but it also is a danger that THQ Nordic is slowly just moving back to THQ, where they're trying to publish as much mid-tier to low-tier shovelware onto platforms and consoles just to make money, and that's in part what caused THQ to go bankrupt in the first place, and it doesn't seem like THQ Nordic has learned that lesson. The hope was 3 or 4 years ago, when THQ Nordic was just Nordic Games, was that they would buy the licenses of things like Darksiders and make that their focus and make a good games and only good games. And instead, they have chosen to go down the dark side and try and just put out as many games as possible, which nobody is even doing that anymore. People have long since realized that that's a waste. There should probably be more of a middle ground. You shouldn't be like EA that only puts out games if they're certain they'll sell millions of dollars, but you also shouldn't just constantly put out shovelware. The Epic Game Stores tweeted, let's see, what did they tweet that I was going to mention? Yeah, they're having more trouble. They're currently investigating login purchase issues. The issues impacting have been resolved an hour ago. So yeah, still getting little bits of news showing that there's some stuff. Some more work needs to be done. I'm starting to yawn. I knew this was going to happen. Deus Ex tweeted, it's been 20 years since I believe the original Deus Ex game came out. So 20th anniversary of the original Deus Ex, which I don't think is super playable these days. Like, I'd like to play it, but I also know that it would be a hassle. Quite the hassle. Alright. It's that one. Play that. Tap this. Cycle. And we're good to go. Gamatsu has an article here. The Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC character Min Min from ARMS launches June 29th. What's interesting here is I'd completely forgotten that Project ARMS even existed. Like, that game kind of just totally disappeared. I have no idea who Min Min is, and I would say, guess we probably need to decide to see if we can block this and see what happens. +1. Turn this to my hand. Then destroy all other creatures. Are we ready for this, or should we wait? You know what's funny is I could put this on the field at some point, and then I could take all of these and put them in exile, every card I have, and then I could play this to return this to my hand and kill everybody he's got. Interesting. I wonder if that surgery will really work, or is there something we're missing? So the Summer Games Fest is going on, and on top of revealing Crash Bandicoot, they oddly had Alf. Now, I don't blame anybody if they don't remember that Alf was an incredibly weird TV show, or that the main male character on it, I believe, died of cocaine use. But unless they're telling me that there's going to be a new Alf TV series, probably on something like Netflix, I really don't want to hear any new news about Alf or see somebody puppeting an Alf puppet. Apparently Alf claimed that he created Hatsune Miku. Alf was typically known for making terrible, dumb jokes, so nothing really surprising there. But the idea that the Crash Bandicoot people or Summer Games Fest would have something to tie in with Alf is really weird. Really weird. I don't think you can make an Alf game. I don't think you can do anything with them. See, this one can't defend. This one can attack. Okay, so we can put this on the field. Next, attack. Go. I wouldn't be able to ever play both of these though, so I do need to decide whether it's better to get rid of this or not. It wouldn't be terrible. Like, there is some problems with trying to bring Alf back to TV. He'd probably be funnier as kind of a late night host or something like that than the weird family member in a family comedy. I imagine maybe that whole let's make a run on Area 51 meme stuff, maybe that caught people's attention when that happened, and they thought it would be the right time to take on something like that. That's about the only thing I could imagine would be the reason why alphas being talked about. But yeah, I don't think you can make a video game or TV show around him. Right, well, let's do this. Can't be blocked. Well, thanks for that. I don't think it matters. And return this card to my hand. Destroy the rest. His haste defeats me. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that definitely was a weird thing to see. Although, yeah, I would say if you were going to make a remake of Alf or Dinosaurs or some of those really weird 80s shows and do a second run on them, it would be about as good as Will and Grace coming back or any other show like that coming back. And it's not like TV has any better ideas, so sure, bring on an Alf series. I'll watch it. I'll watch it for at least a few episodes and then I probably get bored. There is even some talk of Hannibal, which is a good show, way too smart of a show probably to ever been on TV, being a horror like mental thriller, which yeah, that wasn't ever gonna work for TV. But there's some talk of maybe Netflix picking it up and continuing it, which would be weird after all this time, but interesting nonetheless. Netflix does have currently the 3 seasons, and I would say you probably should just watch the first 2 seasons, then skip the first 6 episodes of the 3rd season, because that whole Hannibal in Florence segment goes nowhere and drastically changes the way the TV show plays out and looks and feels, and it like forgets about certain characters, and it's just weird, just a weird decision to do. I would definitely have tried to recut it so that that segment, had that footage already been shot, would have aired at the end, but it probably wouldn't really have changed much if that segment had aired at the end. Because it just feels out of place regardless, and it would just feel out of place regardless. Seven more cards in the graveyard. Let's see. Komatsu has an article over here that for the Switch, Space Invaders Invincible Collection is coming to the West. Which is a large collection of Space Invaders versions, of which you probably don't want to play too many. The original black and white one, then the one that had color film on over it, that's emulated, then Space Invaders 2, which nobody wants to play. I don't even know about Majestic 12. Space Invaders 91 and Extreme, probably not major differences between those. Haven't heard of Gigamats. Haven't heard of Arkanoid versus Space Invaders. Space Cyclone and Lunar Rescue. Some of those definitely don't sound like they're Space Invaders games at all. That's definitely going to be a tough sell, even if you're selling it for like $9. They're selling it, unfortunately, well, the limited, they're selling apparently for £60. which is incredibly expensive, if or €60. Maybe that's the euro symbol. But yeah, that they are marking it up quite a lot. I've noticed that my microphone has stopped picking up me as well. I think the positioning is a little off. So yeah, I was leaning a little bit to the left, and then I got really quiet while I was recording something, and yeah, it does seem like my microphone is probably an inch too far to the right, and that means if I'm leaning to the left, I don't get as heard. You really gotta talk into the mic in almost every form factor of microphone you're using. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Fortnite has removed comp cars due to protests. Yep. I guess the real question is how much of this sticks and how much of this stays. It is kind of nice to start to see people in the United States be on the same page about where their feelings, whether right or wrong, about police and the current state of police, I would say. But even in the past, police have often and almost consistently been designed to protect rich people and their property, and do very little to actually protect and serve the people, even though there almost certainly in every generation of police there have been people who felt like that was their job. Institutionally, that hasn't been the job. That hasn't, the people making the rules, the regulations, and how they're enforced. The corruption has been that way and will be that way probably for a while. And it definitely does seem to me like they've gotten worse than they used to be, but I certainly recall scenarios where even in high school or junior high or elementary school, there were even the on-school police people who were supposed to be trained to deal with kids and supposed to be highly trained and better than a standard beat cop, were still kind of racially profiling and treating people differently. And I kind of particularly do agree with the idea of just getting rid of the on-school resource officer. They have no point of being there. They could patrol around a police place. They could make sure people aren't speeding through the school crosswalks, but they have no reason to be sitting in an office just itching for a reason to harass a kid or arrest a kid or slam a kid to the ground more often than not. Moving on, back to video game news. Here's the Eurogamer article. Batman Arkham developer Rocksteady is making a Suicide Squad game, apparently called Kill the Justice League. Yeah. When you think about who the Justice League is, though, that's like Batman, Superman, Cyborg, The Flash, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. That's a lot of people that you would have to have as effectively the opponents to the bad guys who you would be playing as. Very overpowered characters in particular. So I don't know how that would really work. It probably feels like something like that would work a lot better as a Telltale game than as an action game or something along that line. Because story is what comic books are all about. They pretend that they're about heroes, and they pretend like they're about action, but at the end of the day, there is very little action, if any, because of the way comic books are just drawn and static. And so story and characterization has to win the day, for better or for worse. Next, we have a game on Steam called Hylix. Now, this is a sequel to a very weird game that I've seen people speedrun, and I do think there is a niche fandom for this. It is incredibly weird, just incredibly insane as an RPG game, and I'm not sure I'd ever actually want to play it because it is just even too weird for even me, but I'll put it on the fault list and I'll see what other people have to say. It's $13.49, English only. I believe it's made with claymation in part. I would kind of recommend anybody interested in watching a speedrun to watch the speedrun of Hylix, because it really quickly and easily highlights just the total surreal insanity that is that game, and how you're just trying to collect different objects for different reasons that don't really make any sense to achieve the goal of the game. It kind of feels like it is a Toe Jam and Earl game if Toe Jam and Earl were like 400% more insane than they are, as two aliens that are hip-hop people. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has a blog, The Last Days of Control. This is talking about how game testing affected the last days of development of Control. Playtesting. This might be an interesting story, I guess, if you're going to try and develop a game. It's probably too inside baseball for most people. I would say there is probably an argument that I would make for sure about there not being enough playtesting of Control for them to realize that their gameplay loop was a little boring and repetitive and not anywhere as enthralling as it should have been, considering how I skipped over major portions of Control and have no desire to get any of the DLC or continue playing. And they're not putting out any DLC or anything that would even push me to think that I would want to play anymore. There'd have to be basically a whole side story. That would be about the only thing I could imagine that would convince me to want to play more. Gamma Sutra has another blog, Discoverability, Steam Summer Festival, and Not E3 Showcases, which seems like it's just, this is probably 3 or 4 articles that they're listing to. It does seem like we have hit a point where there isn't any more announcements for a week, I would say, but we'll probably start to get some more announcements fairly soon. Why did that guy die? And next we have a game on Steam called The Sickle Upon Shikigahara. That's a hard word to pronounce. Yeah, that is the other thing. Every time I try to read any of the dialogue, and it'll do too, I'm stumbling over words, and I'm wondering, yeah, I'm starting to wonder, am I just a bad player and I suck at Little Dude 2, or is it that it has bad controls, which I think it has bad controls, or is there some other thing going on? And if I start stumbling over words, then yeah, I might be just getting older, or I might be slept. That either one of those, I guess, is a possibility. See, well, whatever this game is, it's tagged as a visual novel, and it does look pretty ugly. I would say this is probably a Chinese visual novel, if I was to guess. $4.99, English full audio, approximately 2 hours of gameplay and 2 endings. Fully voice acted, it says, in English. Has a weird Asian story to tell if you're not going to support any Asian language. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Johnny Mystery and the Halloween Killer, which I think is just a visual novel trying to sell on sex or sexy characters and cleavage. The idea of a murder happening during a Halloween dress-up party is not a terrible idea, though. This is $1.19. It only is the first chapter. It's English and Portuguese Brazil. This game pictures dead characters in the one finger challenge. I don't know what the one finger challenge even is. So I wouldn't be surprised if these are all asset flipped images. But that is an interesting idea. Halloween dress-up party, murder mystery. It gives you the great excuse to have people in wild costumes, making it easier for the player to recognize different characters. It gives you a great excuse to potentially have people hiding their appearance and not be questioned immediately by that. It does potentially have the possibility of having a ghost story element, at least as a red herring. Moving on, Game of Switch has an article. Starting in July, iOS games will require government approval to launch on the China's App Store. Which, okay, I'm a little surprised that wasn't the rule day one, but that's been pretty much the way China has wanted to do things for a while now, so I'm not surprised that that happens. Game of Sutra has an article. A lack of smart delivery won't prevent PS5 owners from playing Cyberpunk 2077. Anyone who picks up a copy of the PS4 version will be granted a PS5 version when the next-gen console launches. That is pretty much just CD Projekt Red sticking to what they had already said they were going to do, so I'm not super surprised that this is yet again being talked about. And it's not really the main concern by any means. The main concern at this point is CD Projekt Red ever going to finish Cyberpunk 2077, or is it going to be in development hell forever? And is it going to be a game that comes out 10 years from now and then has lost any relevance? Moving on, we have a game on Steam called 50 Level Survive. That's a pretty low effort name, and this definitely looks like a low effort asset flip game for 99 cents English only. We haven't really been seeing a lot of garbage lately. You know, it's probably time to concede and just save myself the frustration, concede, and move on with my life. Platinum Tier 4. Still trying to just get to Platinum Tier 3. That would be nice. Next we have Azure Striker Gunvolt 2. This is rated positive. This, I think, is a series that is gaining more relevance. Although it does kind of feel like Azure Striker Gunvolt games are coming out a little bit fast and furious. Gunvolt Chronicles, Mighty Gunvolt Burst, Blaster Master Series, Bloodstained. You'd think Bloodstained, which came out May 24th, 2019, would be the only game they were focusing on for the past 6 months as a publisher. And instead you have about 4 or 5 other games that they're pushing. So they definitely are making a hard push, maybe at the wrong time, unfortunately. See, next we have a game on Steam called Tin Guy. This, I believe, is an arcade game from the looks of it. Looks like it's a bullet hell shooter, almost Toho style game, but maybe coming before a Toho style game. Not sure if a game like this is something I would want to play, or if maybe this is more interesting. This first appeared in 1996 in arcades for $9.99, and it's English and Japanese. I'm gonna put this on the fall list because there's some historic relevance there. Probably not a lot. Their shoot 'em ups were a dime a dozen in arcades, particularly Neo Geo style shoot 'em ups, and so I wouldn't be surprised if I decided to not play that kind of game. And there may not be a lot to say about that kind of game anyways. Let's go ahead and play that. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article for the PC and Switch. Pixel announces a Greek mythology themed shoot 'em up called Wings of Australia for Switch, PC, and possibly other platforms, due out 2021 in Japan. And here we have a anime girl with long hair and basically very little clothes on. Then we have an anime guy with armor but no shirt and just suspenders. Then we have an anime character. Okay. This is Artemis, the goddess of the hunt and the moon, with a bow. This is Orion. And this is just a griffin. I wouldn't hate the idea of a Greek mythology game. There should be more of those out there. Particularly games that focus in on telling just the story or retelling just the stories of one mythological novel or mythological story. Beowulf, for instance. I'm surprised there aren't a ton of Beowulf games, but there aren't even any good Beowulf movies out. So that might go to show that the demand just doesn't really exist. See, Gamatsu also has an article for the PS4 and Switch. Mary Skelter Final has its opening movie, and Michiru and Chiaki were detailed. Mary Skelter I believe is a dungeon crawler game. Let's see. From Compile Heart, I'll start the trailer here, but I don't think I can guarantee that I'll show the trailer. That trailer may very well not tell me what kind of game it is. I'm seeing a bunch of anime characters that are more in the moe art style, and they seem to all be carrying weapons of some sort. whether guns or weapons, other things. It does kind of have a darker Persona feel to it. But yeah, this trailer is not showing me what kind of game it actually is. And if I could keep some of these games, 3D Dungeon RPG, if I could keep these games clear in my head, I would know. But the problem is there's just too many games that are too similar to each other. Let's go ahead and change this to this and play regular, because clearly trying to play ranked, I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm going to clearly have to play off screen. Valve tweeted, which shows progress in the first place, because they really haven't tweeted a lot. 14 hours ago, the Steam Games Festival wraps up in a few hours. There's still time to check out the 900 plus free demos on upcoming games on Steam from devs around the world. Watch for live streams, developer spotlights, and more. So the last thing they tweeted was May 5th before that point. So they went from May 5th to June 16th. And there's just no talk of a summer sale at all, which I'm again cool with that. I would be happy if there was no summer sale, as long as there's like a November sale. There'd be a problem, I would think, if there's like no video game sale at all this year. But not even a major problem there. I would just then have to decide to maybe make a budget of about $100, and whenever something went on discount, I would just buy it at that point. That really wouldn't be a big deal. TechRaptor has an article, mess with Fight Crab and you get the claws. This apparently is a game called Fight Crab, which looks very low effort. Playing as a crab is an interesting idea, but visually this doesn't look like it's probably polished enough. Particularly this screen does make it seem like it is just a joke game or a demo. Not even a demo of something that would become a game, just a demo in general, because you wouldn't want to admit or call it anything more. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article for the PS4, Switch, and Xbox One. The game The Watchmaker is coming to all of those consoles on October 8th. Now, I know this game because it's been on my wish list, and it's never been reviewed very well. So maybe they've polished it off and patched it a little bit. Maybe it'll sell the second time around. More and more we are seeing these cases in which games are getting ported over to the Switch and other consoles to try to get some more sales, because they've been on PC and not gotten any traction. And sometimes it does feel like it's just a cheap cop-out, and sometimes it feels like they're doing the thing that they should be doing to try and potentially make their games relevant and have an audience. TechRaptor has an article, Foregone hits consoles this October. This is some kind of game. That's about all I can say. Let's see, a 2D action platformer published by Big Blue Bubble. And you have one screenshot, and that seems to be it. So when my power went out, I was looking at EA games, and so I was putting a lot of these EA games that just came to Steam on my follow list. So I'm just going to continue that. We were at Battlefield 5, Hardline, Battlefield 3, and let's come over here and resolve. Not really a lot to say about these EA games, other than I'm trying to figure out if I really would want this or not. Like the Mass Effect 3 N7 Digital Deluxe Edition, is this getting panned because of it having EA Origin? And my plugin labeling that inappropriate third-party DRM. That's a weird way to describe it, but okay. But you are also in this position where I just don't know if it is worth your... Yeah, I don't know if it's worth your time to play a lot of these EA games. They seem like they may just be a huge waste of everybody's time, and everybody kind of knows whether they're good or not. Let's see, Battlefield 4. Put it on the following list. Battlefield 4 is actually labeled as mostly positive. It is really just bad announcements here, because there really is no reason why so many of these EA games shouldn't have been widely and well received instead of getting pushback because of dumb DRM that shouldn't have been in the game in the first place. Let's see. Susan Wojcicki tweeting about politics. The CEO of YouTube, not smart. She really shouldn't. Should try to be as hands-off as possible. Honestly, all these companies need to be way more hands-off and just back off about pretending like they have a political opinion that is any bigger than they want to make more money. Moving on, TechCraft has an article, a class action lawsuit filed against Apple over loot boxes. Okay. That lawsuit will probably go nowhere. And even if the class action does settle in the end, I have never seen any of those settlement paychecks or anything happen. Like, I've been doing a lot of rebates, a lot of things, and that money never shows up in my mailbox. So I don't know. I guess I should start investigating who's robbing me, because somebody is, clearly. Well, if I tap this guy now, that's probably not the right move. I should probably tap him on his turn. Titanfall 2. Put that on the following list. Overwhelmingly positive. But there is that question about Titanfall 1. Can you play that on Steam, or is that still an EA exclusive, and does it really matter? And of the single player content, how much content really is there in the Titanfall series compared to, say, playing the online content, which was clearly a focus at one point. So I'll have to do some more focusing and more investigation. A Way Out. This was a multiplayer game only, so I just could never play it. Plus, it really isn't relevant to play. The Sims 4, we'll put down the fall list. I don't really want to play The Sims, and if I was gonna highlight it, I probably would just make a spotlight on it and not go deep into the Sims and buy a bunch of DLC, because that is the way of madness, and that's the way to really waste a bunch of time. We have here the Namco Museum Archives Volume 1. I'll put that on the follow list. Although, questionable whether any of these Namco games are worth the $19.99 that they're selling it for. And Namco, when it's labeled Namco, is English only, where the Namcot versions probably are multilingual, if I was to guess. I'd have to look it up, though. I'm not sure if that's really true. We also have the Namco Museum Archives Volume 2. Again, put it on the fall list. Let's see. Yeah. Search by release date. Namco. Yeah, I guess on Steam they're not being labeled as Namcot. Just Namco, at least for as far as what I'm seeing. Live Retro, which is now on Steam, has their launch lineup revealed. So it will launch on Windows first, Linux later, and it will have 10 cores available on launch day. Mupin 64 Plus Next, Cronus, PCX Rearmed, Stella, Sameboy, MGBA, Mason 5, Genesis Plus GX, and Final Burn Neo, which Final Burn Neo might be capable of playing all the MAME games, but I wouldn't really be surprised if it actually isn't fully capable there. I could have tapped that guy and I wasn't paying enough attention. There definitely are some missing cores there. Says there will be no core downloader in RetroArch or anything that is not hosted on Steam. In fact, to obtain cores you need to install cores separately that we provided as DLC. These are all free, just like RetroArch itself. So you'll install your cores as DLC. Without installing any cores, the most you'll be able to do with RetroArch is watch some movie files and playback music files through the built-in FFmpeg core. To make it do anything else, you will have to install a core. It doesn't seem like RetroArch is going to be particularly dumbed down on the Steam version at that rate. There won't be any substantial differences between the Steam version and the regular version, which I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of start to really not focus on the regular version at all and only focus on the Steam version. Let's go ahead and tap this. We keep hearing blasts from the past, and does seem to be just kind of a lot of nostalgia that is continuously going on. So this was interesting. I don't think this is coming to the West yet, but for the Switch, Metabots Classic Plus has been announced. So Metabots, the less successful competitor to Digimon and Pokemon, but successful enough to have several games here. They have 5 games that came out on Game Boy in Japan, and they're now including some Game Boy Advance games. None of the Metabots though will probably look particularly well, because these are old games, definitely. And the general difference between Pokemon and Metabots is just that they're robots, and not particularly much else changes, other than the robots take a part or gamble a part of the robots when they fight. So you are, if you lose in a position where you might lose an arm, or your robot might lose an arm, to be more accurate. See, next we have a game, Shoujo Jigoku no Doku Masame, details a world map, actions, and more goal of Maiden Hell. Which, yeah, here we have a couple of characters, a couple demon looking characters, I guess, and more little bits of information. Yeah, this too looks a lot like Persona. A lot of Persona clones seemingly coming out lately. Wonder if there's a specific reason for that, or if it's just because Persona is fairly well successful and so they're just copying it. It is standard operating procedure, as it were, for Japanese companies to copy what was a success to death until it stops becoming a success. See, next we have the romance visual novel Wagamama High Spec, coming to the Switch September 24th in Japan. Which, yeah, different hair colored anime girls with pretty much everything else is the same, just slightly different bust size, slightly different eye colors, but height maybe a little bit different. This is on Steam since 2017, so I could jump into the Steam version. We could see what the reviews are for it. Let's see. The game is tagged with having nudity, and it is rated very positively. And the screenshots are fairly lewd. So I guess I have to put this on the follow list. It's $39.99. Let's see. And apparently the Steam version is censored compared to the original version of the game, which, just go ahead and pay that. Okay, do we want to all attack? I see the beginning of the end, so we should be able to wrap this up fairly quickly, and I think I'm going to have to, because I am just getting increasingly sleepier. And we definitely aren't going to guarantee any victories if I'm not paying attention at all because I'm half asleep. And I guess when we get to Wednesday, if the new expansion is out, we'll probably open new packs. But I doubt I'll make a special event out of it or anything like that. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article, Keen One Girl Army for Switch has been delayed to July 2nd. The PC and Mac versions still on track for June 25th. This looks like a block pushing puzzle. And I've done a lot of that playing It'll Do 2, and I'm not sure I would want to honestly go into that and play something that's a block pushing puzzle game. Let's see. What I really would like is something that is almost 100% a copy of The Legend of Zelda, which is better graphics and maybe some slight improvements in gameplay ideas, but that's about it. Like, I'm not really looking for anything else. And It'll Do, both the first game and the sequel really fails to capture that nostalgia, and instead kind of fails to learn the lessons that it should have learned, or learn any lessons in fact at all, from The Legend of Zelda, and instead just goes its own way and does things worse. Moving on, Indivisible Ink is now available for Switch. I think we probably had already talked about that. I guess the pressure is probably off to do the wishlist cleanup, and certainly I'm not going to do any work on cleaning up the wishlist today. Gamatsu has an article, Blue Fire adds a PS4, Xbox One, and PC versions, and it's delayed to Q1 2021. Okay. I don't even recognize this game. So the first thing I hear about it is it's delayed. That sadly seems to be the case. Often it happens in games. This looks interesting. Interesting enough, at least. Let's go ahead and tap who we've got. See. Next we have a game on Steam called Ming Dynasty 1789. It's already mixed reviewed. It looks like a terrible Chinese visual novel, for lack of a better term. English is not supported, $9.99 Chinese owned. So even the Chinese people seem to hate it. Interesting. See, we have a game called El Hijo. I remember this being talked about and then immediately never hearing anything more about it. This was almost a year ago, I think, when I last heard about it. A Wild West Tale, gameplay teaser trailer and gameplay. A lot of what El Hijo was selling itself on was being an indie game with a Mexican child as the main character. Now he's kind of doing some kind of stealth gameplay by the looks of it. Well, it looks like it's made a lot more progress than where it was when it first was announced. It probably is still a pretty short game, and it may very well not be a relevant game by any means. I can not get past this. Got a couple of things to try, I guess. Let's attack with this one. And attack with this one. tap this guy. Think we can win. Next we have a game with a bunch of Asian characters. This looks like an RPG Maker game. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's really anything of major interest. It's $1.99 English, Chinese, Japanese. Yeah, and I'm just sputtering out. Next we have a game called The Maze. It's been a while since we've seen this asset flip maze template used. And yeah, they still feel pretty bad. In all fairness though, I will say that this one at least looks a step above some of the previous maze asset flip games, but none of them look particularly good. They're not within a mile of being good. This is $2.99 English, allegedly full audio. I don't know why people think for a second that would sell. Okay. No blocks. Next we have a game called The Forever Moon, which is rated positively, tagged as a visual novel. Looks more like an RPG Maker game to me, with some visual novel elements. English is not supported at $1.99, Chinese only. This isn't pretty. The rest of this looks pretty asset flippy. There we go. That will help somewhat. We do this. Then we can put this on the field. And then I don't know if anything would help us, but we could put that back on the field, I guess, or try. Gotta try. Come on, let's burn through this news. Next we have a game on Steam called Overshadow. This is from Digipen, so it's a student project. These student projects still don't feel like there's always a bunch of them. They feel like there's one, maybe two from a lot of the colleges. So I guess maybe only one or two students are probably in their graduating year, their final year in college per semester. That it might very well be the case. Let's see. Well, tap this. Next we have a game on Steam called Missing Children. Oddly, usually it's the Asian characters on the left, then the English characters on the right. It's backwards here. This looks kind of like a Japanese horror game, but it feels kind of asset flippy also. It's marked positively. Horror themed adventure game about a bully detective searching for reported missing children. Bully detective, I don't know what that means. $2.99 English and Japanese. I'm gonna put this on the follow list. There's a oddly high number of reviewers there that are positive. Next we have Dark Forest on Steam, which this just looks like voxels. It's $4.99 with a bunch of languages. Yeah. And yeah, it just looks like voxel Minecraft clone type content. And nothing's gonna save me. I could block with this if I want to, but I'll still lose. And that's gonna be the last game we play. And I'll just have to try and play off screen and get 15 victories. If I don't, I don't. It really wouldn't hurt too much to not get the victories and save up this XP for the next expansion. See. TechRaptor has an article here. Wasteland 3 Faction Fever trailer shows off who you'll meet. This is talking just about a trailer. I shouldn't have even bothered to show that off. Here we have a game on Steam called Knight's Destiny, which looks to me like an infinite runner. Yeah, looks just to be a platformer slash infinite runner. Early access, $9.99, English, allegedly full audio. I don't think there's a game there, so I'm willing to skip that one. Let's see. Next we have a game called Falseman 2 Upstream, which is mixed reviewed and looks like a Chinese dungeon crawler game slash visual novel. English is not supported, $6.99, Chinese only. A lot of Chinese games today and Friday, I suppose. Let's see. The Pathmaker Kingdom Definitive Edition is coming to the PS4, Xbox One on August 18th. Pathfinder might be an interesting game. It's like Torch Diablo, but better. I did hear someone say some game was like Diablo, but better, and I'm not sure if it's Pathfinder, if it's Divinity Original Sin, or if it's some other game I'm not even remembering. There's far too many of them and far too many names that are all mixed up in my head. Moving on, we have Energy Saber Master VR, which clearly is just a Beat Saber clone for $7.99, and apparently English only. Yeah, that's nothing. Let's see, we already talked about this, but Namco Museum Archives Volume 1 and 2 launched June 18th for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. I think today might be the 18th. It's going to show how some of this news is old. And then we have a game called Pluviophile, which I believe is yet another one of these walking simulators that are kind of asset flippy but very pretty, made by the same developer who made the Drizzle Path games and several other things. I'm not sure how many of these I own or how many of these I bought. I have like the fees begin. Apparently, maybe I got that for free, or maybe I bought it just because it was really cheap. But yeah, I definitely constantly run into this developer and this self-publisher and wonder if he's making an actual product or if he's just making a slightly prettier version of an asset flip, and he is just kind of like the missing link between good games and asset flip games. Next we have Escape Kyoto House, which looks like it's an asset flip with voxel characters and an escape to room type challenge for $4.99, English only, allegedly English full audio. And then Komatsu had an article. Let's see, what was it? Neptunia Virtual Stars details guest VTuber system. Which, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if this Neptunia game is even coming to the West. But no, it is. It's coming to North America in 2021. So I might be more interested in it. I'm still not sure I really even want to play any of the Neptunia games after I bought a bunch of them. I want to play at least one of them, probably the remake of the first one. Here is that Fight for Racial Justice Humble Bundle. They've now raised $3 million plus, and there's 1 day and 3 minutes left to decide whether you want to spend $30 to unlock a decent collection of games, while also probably getting a lot of repeated games, at least in my case. Kind of wish you could just buy the video games and not buy the books, because there's definitely people who don't care about comic books or books in general, and so having that extra element is something that might increase the expense for people who don't care to increase the expense. And do we have any other games bundle? 2 days the Codemaster bundles ends, and that seems like that will be the next time we get any new game bundle. Then I can look at my Twitter feed and see if there's anything new. I imagine there is almost certainly nothing new video game wise. Joel Schumacher, director of the Batman films, has died at 80. Batman films. Geez, I am just getting worse and worse as far as pronouncing things. That's not video game related, I don't think. I don't think Joel Schumacher worked too closely with any of the Batman video games, although I do vaguely recall that one of the Batman video games did try to work very closely with the movie developers, and I'm not sure either side were very happy about that at the end of the day. Let's see. Still scrolling down my Twitter feed. A lot of tweets here that don't have anything to don't really have anything to do with video games, though. So, yeah. Is there anything new worth mentioning? Just little teases. That's about all we're getting right now, is little teases of things that might be games in a while, in a year or two. Still looking, still scrolling. I should have hit things. Yeah, that's it. I've seen everything. Well, we didn't make a lot of progress, unfortunately, but otherwise fine. That's going to be it for the stream. We did a pretty short one. As always, I ask you to like, share. Oh, someone was on the chat. Before I wrap up, I'll check here. Level by Level Gaming says, "Hello, Rydo, how are you?" And then he says, "Acid flip?" ? I don't know what the acid flip part of that is, but I'm doing fine, other than I'm still suffering majorly from insomnia, and that's why I'm wrapping up early, and that's why I'm uh, streaming early. I want to go back to more close to 2 o'clock in the afternoon as a streaming time, but I have not for the past week been even awake at that time. I'm waking up at like 8 or 9 in the evening and going to sleep at 10 or 11 in the morning. But nice to see you, level by level gaming. But that is the end of the stream. So thanks for chatting though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching.